After destroying Cangmu Academy in Jiang Kingdom, Ye Xuan finally brings the fallen students of Canglan Academy home. With new resources, powerful treasures, and the support of Drunken Immortal Tower, Canglan Academy begins to rise from the ruins. But Ye Xuan knows their enemies have not disappeared. While he cultivates the mysterious Sword Eyes and his companions push themselves beyond their limits, experts from Cangmu Academy and the underworld descend upon Canglan Mountain. Facing 4 terrifying opponents far beyond his realm, Ye Xuan refuses to kneel even when his mysterious master remains silent. Now, let us follow the next developments in the First Sword God, Episode 23. The moment Ye Xuan gave the order, Yunqi, Bai Ze, and Ji Anzhi charged forward, kill. Ye Xuan had never been the kind of person who showed mercy once blood had been drawn. Since the conflict between the 2 academies had already reached the point where only one side could survive, why should they not pull the weeds out by the roots? Cangmu Academy had never shown Canglan Academy any mercy. Ye Xuan plunged back into the slaughter. He was fast, but his sword was even faster. He had barely rushed forward when his blade sent the head of a Divine Union Realm expert from Cangmu Academy flying. The expression of the Divine Union Realm expert fighting Yunqi changed drastically. He spun around, but the sword had already arrived. Boom! The man was blasted backward. Just as the Lianshu sword was about to strike again, a flying knife moved even faster. The Divine Union Realm expert had barely been thrown through the air when the knife pierced straight through his throat. His head flew off, and a pillar of blood burst into the air. Yunqi glanced toward Ye Xuan and said calmly, "I stole that kill." Ye Xuan swung the sword in his right hand. 10 zhang away. Another Divine Union Realm expert's head flew into the air, killed in an instant. Another instant kill. Seeing this, the Cangmu Academy students in the courtyard trembled, yet not a single one chose to surrender. At this point, begging for mercy would only invite humiliation. Fight! Neither side had any path of retreat left. If the Divine Union Realm experts had fought one-on-one, Yunqi, Bai Ze, and Ji Anzhi would have found it difficult to kill them without Ye Xuan's help. But in a 4-against-4 battle, Ye Xuan's group completely crushed their opponents. Once every Divine Union Realm expert of Cangmu Academy had fallen, what followed became entirely one-sided. It was a massacre. Before the Academy Hall, heads belonging to Cangmu Academy students continued flying into the air. The spectators around the battlefield were horrified. Some could no longer bear to watch and turned around, fleeing down the mountain. It was too bloody. Today was the end of Cangmu Academy. Before long, only 10 Cangmu Academy students remained. Ye Xuan had deliberately kept them alive. The 10 gathered together, their robes long since soaked red with blood. Ye Xuan walked up to them. "Do you want to live?" One of the students gave a savage laugh. "Live? Even if we must die standing. We will never..." A sword pierced straight through the speaker's head, spraying blood in every direction. The remaining students recoiled several steps. Ye Xuan pointed at another student. "Do you want to live?" The student swallowed hard. He was still struggling with the answer when a sword flew over and slashed. The student's body was split apart by a single strike, blood and organs scattered across the ground. Bloody? Ye Xuan understood perfectly well that if his side had lost, the fate of the 4 of them would have been even more miserable than what these people were suffering now. Once one chose to walk this kind of path, one had to be ruthless when ruthlessness was required. Ye Xuan pointed toward another Cangmu Academy student. The man's expression changed immediately, and he hurriedly cried, "I want to live?" His legs were trembling uncontrollably. Ye Xuan looked toward the others, but no one spoke. The Lianshu sword beside him suddenly trembled. The remaining students saw it and hurriedly shouted, "We want to live! Live!" Not everyone in this world was unafraid of death, especially when there was still a chance to survive. Ye Xuan turned and looked down the mountain. "Below us are the bodies of 36 students of Canglan Academy. Carry them home for me. And remember, you will do it on your knees." The expressions of everyone present became extremely ugly. "Carry them home while kneeling?" "That was an unbearable humiliation," Ye Xuan said coldly. "Compared with the humiliation you inflicted upon them, what does this amount to? If you do not wish to do it, that is also fine. Leave your heads here as offerings to their spirits in heaven." As soon as he finished speaking, the Lianshu sword hovered above the students' heads. Ye Xuan raised 3 fingers. "I will count to 3. 3. The Cangmu Academy students clenched their fists. Their faces were dark and cold sweat covered their foreheads. It was obvious they were struggling. Ye Xuan lowered 1 finger. 2. The moment the word left his mouth, the Lianshu sword dropped. One of the students was pierced from the top of his head all the way through his body. At that sight, the last defense in the others' hearts collapsed. 6 Cangmu Academy students immediately ran madly down the narrow path of Cang Mountain. And so beneath the gazes of countless people, those Cangmu Academy students carried the bodies of Canglan Academy's fallen back toward Canglan Academy. Every one of them moved on their knees. On Kang Mountain, Ye Xuan's group stood before the Academy Hall. Corpses and blood covered the ground in front of them. From this moment onward, Cangmu Academy of Jiang Kingdom had been completely destroyed. Ye Xuan raised his head toward the sky. Thank you, two seniors, for helping us destroy Cangmu Academy. Now that it has fallen, how about the three sides divide everything inside the academy equally? At this moment, the Ninth Tower Master and Zhang Yuetian appeared before Ye Xuan. The Ninth Tower Master smiled and said, "Let us do this instead. Brother Jiang and I will each take 30%, while your Canglan Academy takes 40%. Young friend, do not refuse. If your master had not killed Li Xuanchang, none of us could have destroyed Cangmu Academy. In the end, we are still the ones benefiting from this." Ye Xuan considered it for a moment, then nodded. "Then I will not be polite." The Tower Master laughed loudly. "We are all on the same side, why be polite?" Dividing the spoils, Cangmu Academy had accumulated wealth for many years. Naturally, it possessed countless treasures. When Mo Yunqi and the others emptied its treasury, they were completely stunned. Inside were 49 supreme-grade spiritual artifacts and 6 bright-rank artifacts, including 1 middle-grade bright-rank item. In addition, there were roughly 10 million spirit stones, along with a number of cultivation methods and martial techniques. Everything else was a mountain of miscellaneous treasures, too numerous to count. This was more than merely becoming rich. They had struck an enormous fortune. All three forces had gained a tremendous windfall. Zhang Yuetian could not stop smiling. Jiang Kingdom currently lacked wealth more than anything else. With these resources, the royal treasury would remain full for the next 10 years. The Ninth Tower Master was also extremely excited. Once this wealth entered Drunken Immortal Tower, it would become an achievement credited to him. His goal had never been to remain in Jiang Kingdom or even Qingzhou. He wanted to reach the Central Divine Continent. In the past, he had possessed no hope whatsoever. Now the future was filled with it. Ye Xuan's group was naturally excited as well. With so many resources, rebuilding Canglan Academy would become much easier. What did the new Canglan Academy lack most? Spirit stones, martial techniques, cultivation methods, and spiritual artifacts. Students needed resources to cultivate. With this wealth, the first group of recruited students could begin training immediately. It would allow Canglan Academy to survive its most difficult early stage. Ye Xuan was truly serious about rebuilding the academy. The three forces quickly finished dividing the treasures. Ye Xuan's side received 2 bright-rank artifacts, 16 supreme-grade spiritual artifacts, 3 earth-rank martial techniques, and 3 earth-rank cultivation methods. In addition, they obtained 3 million supreme-grade spirit stones, 30 jade-grade spirit stones, and a collection of other miscellaneous items. When Mo Yunqi and Bai Ze saw all of it, their eyes widened. This was what it truly meant to become rich. Ye Xuan stored all the treasures on the first floor of the World Prison Tower. The space there was more than large enough. After putting everything away, Ye Xuan turned toward the Ninth Tower Master and Zhang Yuetian. "Two seniors, we will take our leave now." The Ninth Tower Master nodded. "Young friend, Drunken Immortal Tower has already accepted the items you gave me. The money will be transferred shortly. When it is ready, I will personally bring it to Canglan Academy." Ye Xuan cupped his fist. "Then I will trouble you." After saying that, he turned and left. Mo Yunqi and the others followed behind him. The Ninth Tower Master watched them disappear into the distance. He smiled and withdrew his gaze. "We earned quite a bit this time." Zhang Yuetian nodded. The Jiang royal family had gained enormously. With this wealth, Jiang Kingdom's national strength would rise by a great margin. All three sides had benefited. Zhang Yuetian and the Ninth Tower Master exchanged glances, then both burst into laughter. Canglan Academy. By the time Ye Xuan and the others returned to Jiyun Mountain, the surviving Cangmu Academy students had already carried the bodies of Canglan Academy's fallen to the summit. Before Ye Xuan's group lay 36 corpses. Every body had been mutilated beyond recognition. It was not difficult to imagine how brutally they had been treated at Cangmu Academy. The surviving Cangmu Academy students stood nearby. Ye Xuan said nothing, and naturally, none of them dared make a move. At last, Ye Xuan said, "Leave." The students reacted as though they had been granted a pardon. They scrambled down the mountain as fast as their legs could carry them. Ye Xuan led Mo Yunqi and the others toward the bodies. When Ji Anzhi saw them, tears once again flowed from her eyes. She had cried more in these past few days than she had in many years. The four bowed deeply before the dead. Ye Xuan said softly, "You can rest now." Then he turned toward Bai Ze. "Bury them properly. Raise a memorial stone and carve every one of their names upon it. All future students of Canglan Academy must remember them. They must remember that these people died for the academy, and do everything possible to contact their families. Whatever compensation we can provide, we must provide in full. Sword Eyes. Naturally, the first thing Ye Xuan wanted was to master the Sword Eyes. Without ordinary sight, his combat strength had fallen. He slowly studied the Sword Eyes cultivation method the mysterious woman had given him. The more he examined it, the more astonished he became. This method was unbelievable and extremely complicated. Sword Eyes. To use the sword as one's eyes, one first had to make the heart into a sword. The heart. That was the true key to the Sword Eyes. Only after turning the heart into a sword could one condense sword intent and use the sword as one's vision. In other words, Ye Xuan would observe the world through his heart, while the sword served only as the medium. Although the technique was called Sword Eyes, it might have been more accurate to call it the heart's eye. Ye Xuan sat cross-legged on the ground, with the Lian Xiu sword hovering beside him. Sword intent silently gathered around his body. Sword intent. Even Ye Xuan himself did not know what kind of sword intent he possessed. The mysterious woman had disappeared before explaining it, but to him, its exact nature was not especially important. What mattered most was that it could increase his fighting strength. Ye Xuan slowly began circulating the cultivation method the mysterious woman had given him. Before long, faint sword light appeared around his body. The method had only 3 essential points. Listen, sense, think. Ye Xuan tilted his head and listened. The wind. He heard it very faintly. As time passed, he also heard bamboo leaves rustling in the nearby forest. At that moment, the sword intent surrounding him suddenly spread outward. Following his thoughts, it drifted toward those bamboo leaves. The instant his sword intent reached them, Ye Xuan sensed every detail of the leaves. It felt exactly as if he were seeing them with his own eyes. The sensation was indescribably wondrous. Excitement rose within him. For Ye Xuan, this was an entirely new discovery. His sword intent soon continued spreading across the ground. Through it, he sensed what lay beneath the earth, the broken stones, the breath of the soil, the flowing water. He sensed more and more. Everything grew increasingly distinct, even clearer than when he had observed the world with ordinary eyes. It was a miraculous feeling. Ye Xuan became completely immersed in it. His sword intent quickly spread in every direction, but it could not travel very far. Once it extended beyond roughly 10 zhang, exhaustion began washing over him. Within 10 zhang, he could use his sword intent to perceive everything around him. But doing so was far too troublesome. To sense his entire surroundings, he had to scatter his sword intent across a broad area. Once dispersed, its power weakened greatly. What he needed was to truly cultivate the Sword Eyes. Once he succeeded, he would achieve the same result without such inconvenience. With that thought, Ye Xuan recalled his sword intent, compressed the sword intent. He began compressing it with all his strength. In only a short time, the sword intent within and around his body was repeatedly forced inward. It felt as though countless blades of wind were carving through his flesh. The pain was unbearable. Ye Xuan nearly cried out, but forced himself to endure. If he could not withstand even this much, could he still call himself a man? He would not scream, even if they beat him to death. His entire body suddenly convulsed. A miserable scream echoed throughout the bamboo forest. Hum, 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 hum. Around Ye Xuan, his sword intent moved like countless streaks of lightning, constantly converging toward his eyes. It was not only sword intent. Strands of sword light also poured toward them. The pain caused by so much compressed sword intent and sword light gathering inside his eyes was something an ordinary person could never endure. For one brief instant, Ye Xuan wanted to give up, but now, even if he wanted to stop, it was already too late. As time passed, endless sword intent and sword light gathered within his empty eye sockets. Every strand had been compressed to an extreme degree. Blood vessels spread across his face, making him look terrifying. One could only imagine how much pain he was enduring. While Ye Xuan cultivated, Yunqi, Bai Ze, and Ji Anzhi were also training madly. They had won their battle against Cangmu Academy, but none of the 4 had forgotten that old Ji had died to protect them. What did helplessness feel like? What did despair feel like? They had learned both when they watched old Ji fall before their eyes. Whether it was Yunqi, Bai Ze, or Ji Anzhi, none of them wanted to experience that helplessness and despair ever again. Now, only the 4 of them remained in Canglan Academy. Ye Xuan had also suffered backlash and lost his sight. Merely thinking about it placed enormous pressure upon them. Cultivate, even Yunqi, who loved being lazy more than anyone, now trained like a madman. Small iron balls were tied all over his body. Every day before dawn he ran deep into the mountains. When he returned, his entire body was drenched. His legs trembled uncontrollably. Yet the next morning, before the sun rose, he went out and did it again. Bai Ze no longer cultivated beneath the waterfall. Every day he repeatedly smashed his body against a cliff. His physique was different from an ordinary person's. The more violently his body was stimulated, the stronger it became. Moreover, the harsher the training, the greater the possibility that the power of the demon bloodline within him would awaken. But the process was excruciating. Every time he struck the cliff, pieces of flesh tore from his body. At the base of the stone wall, Bai Ze crashed against the rock again and again. Every collision made him howl from the pain. Elsewhere stood the heroic spirit hall. It was a newly completed hall. Nearly 100 memorial tablets had been placed inside, with old Ji's tablet occupying the most prominent position. Ji Anzhi was kneeling before them. At that moment, someone entered. It was Ye Xuan. His entire body trembled, and his steps were unsteady. Ji Anzhi did not turn around. She stared blankly at the memorial tablets. Ye Xuan walked to her side and sat down, facing the tablets with her. He said softly, "You have been kneeling here for an entire day." Ji Anzhi said nothing. Ye Xuan turned his head toward her. "In the future, I want all of you to follow me. We will go together to Canglan Academy's main academy in the central divine continent." Ji Anzhi looked at him. Ye Xuan nodded. "I am." Ji Anzhi nodded, rose, and turned to leave. When she reached the doorway, she suddenly stopped. "Grandfather said that having students like all of you meant he had no regrets in this life." After saying that, she left. Inside the hall, Ye Xuan sat on the floor. He remained there for an unknown length of time before taking the wine gourd from his waist and drinking a small mouthful. It burned, but the taste was not bad, so he drank several more mouthfuls. Before long, his face had turned red. In the past, he had rarely drunk wine. More accurately, he had almost never touched it, because he believed drinking would interfere with serious matters. But after taking a few mouthfuls now, he found it was not so bad. One drink followed another. Then Ye Xuan suddenly knelt before old Ji's memorial tablet, holding his head in both hands as tears poured down like a broken dam. How could he ever forget the sight of old Ji's death? He had never forgotten it. No one knew how long passed before Ye Xuan slowly stood. He turned to leave. When he reached the doorway, he stopped and said softly, "Old Ji, rest assured. Cangmu Academy of Qingzhou, the underworld. I will never spare the people who harmed us. I will also take old Mo and the others to the central divine continent. Your master is our grandmaster as well. We may refuse to acknowledge Canglan Academy's main academy, but we will acknowledge him." After saying this, Ye Xuan left the heroic spirit hall. Outside, the moon hung high in the sky, covering the earth in silver light. Ye Xuan staggered into the distance. Before long, he reached the rear mountain, where he encountered Mo Yunqi out on a run. Mo Yunqi stopped, looked Ye Xuan over, and frowned. "Bandit Yi, are you drunk?" Ye Xuan shook his head. "Drunk? I am not drunk." He opened his palm and the Lianshu sword appeared in his hand. Pointing it at Mo Yunqi, he said, "Stupid Mo, come, let us practice swordsmanship." The moment he finished speaking, he charged. Seeing that Ye Xuan was truly coming at him, Mo Yunqi's expression changed. His figure flashed several zhang backward, opening the distance between them. "Bandit Yi, have you gone mad after drinking again?" He did not finish speaking, because the Lianshu sword in Ye Xuan's hand had already slashed straight toward him. Mo Yunqi was scared nearly out of his wits. He retreated again and again, while Ye Xuan's sword pursued him like lightning. As Mo Yunqi ran, he cursed. "Bandit Yi, have you lost your mind after drinking? Stop right now, or I will beat you senseless." Ye Xuan showed no sign of stopping. He simply continued chasing the fleeing Mo Yunqi. The two moved extremely quickly. Before long, Mo Yunqi reached Bai Ze, who was lying flat on the ground and panting heavily. Seeing Ye Xuan chasing Mo Yunqi, Bai Ze froze. "Stupid Mo, how did you provoke him?" Mo Yunqi glared at Bai Ze. "Provoke my ass. This bastard got drunk. The moment he saw me, he charged over and tried to cut me down. He twisted his body aside and a streak of sword light flashed past him. The sword stabbed into the ground directly in front of Bai Ze, only a few inches away. Bai Ze swallowed hard and crawled backward. His body was powerful, but Ye Xuan's sword was incredibly sharp. More importantly, it was a middle-grade bright-rank sword. At that moment, Ye Xuan one's sword decides life and death. Mo Yunqi and Bai Ze were both extremely familiar with this move. It was unquestionably Ye Xuan's strongest killing technique. Facing Ye Xuan's attack, Mo Yunqi did not even consider resisting. He immediately turned and ran. Bai Ze did not dare receive the strike either, so he chose to play dead. Ye Xuan was clearly completely drunk. It was better to avoid him until the danger passed. But at that moment, Ye Xuan suddenly stopped. The Lianshu sword also froze in place, and then Ye Xuan collapsed to the ground clearly. The alcohol had finally taken full effect. In the distance, Mo Yunqi stopped. He turned to look at Ye Xuan lying on the ground, sighed, and walked back. Under the moonlight, the three of them lay on a huge boulder. Ye Xuan leaned against the rock and raised his head toward the horizon, lost in thought. Mo Yunqi and Bai Ze rested on either side of him. The three remained silent for a long time. Then Ye Xuan suddenly said, rebuilding Canglan Academy and avenging old Ji will both be difficult and dangerous. You two, stop, Mo Yunqi interrupted him. Bandit Yi, are you about to tell us to leave? Ye Xuan fell silent. He knew revenge would be extremely difficult. He did not know exactly how powerful the underworld and Cangmu Academy of King Zhou were, but he understood that he currently had no ability to oppose them, and those two forces might very well refuse to let him go. Besides that, he also intended to visit Canglan Academy's main academy, the Central Divine Continent. Naturally, he was not going there merely to reason with them. In this world, anyone who wished to discuss reason had to compare fists first. Only when your fist was larger than the other person's would they agree to reason with you. The path ahead would be extremely difficult, Mo Yunqi said in a deep voice. Bandit Yi, we know the road ahead will be damn difficult. But precisely because it will be so difficult, we cannot let you walk it alone. He turned and looked toward the horizon. No matter what happens in the future, we will shoulder it together. If we can endure it, we will overcome it together. If we cannot, then we will die together. I do not want to die, but I want even less to be a coward. And old Ji did not die only for you. He died for me and the big fellow as well. We have a responsibility to avenge him and fulfill his final wishes. Bai Ze nodded. We shoulder it together. Not one of us can be missing. He clenched his right fist. His entire right arm instantly swelled, blue veins rising beneath the skin in a terrifying pattern. Bai Ze looked at Ye Xuan and said seriously, I am close to awakening the bloodline in my body. I am very good at fighting. Mo Yunqi looked toward him. Big fellow, what kind of demon beast bloodline do you have? It is not some cat or dog bloodline, is it? Boom! Mo Yunqi was suddenly sent flying. He landed several zhang away, but quickly crawled up and pointed angrily at Bai Ze. One-on-one, Bai Ze immediately charged. Before long, the two were wrestling and fighting each other. Beside the great boulder, Ye Xuan shook his head and smiled. Fine. Whatever happens, we will shoulder it together. If we cannot bear it, we will die together. After saying that, he raised the wine gourd at his waist and took several deep swallows. The instant Mo Yunqi and Bai Ze saw this, they stopped fighting. Both looked toward Ye Xuan. His face was already turning red, and the sword at his waist had begun trembling continuously. Run! Mo Yunqi turned and fled. His speed was astonishing, and he vanished like a gust of wind. After hesitating briefly, Bai Ze also turned and ran. There was no way he could beat Bandit Yi in this state. Run first. At the same spot, Ye Xuan entered a battle stance. He staggered slowly forward, while the Lianshu sword flew drunkenly around him, as though the sword itself had also been drinking the next day. The 9th Tower Master of Drunken and Immortal Tower arrived at Canglan Academy. By now, 16 great halls had already been built. Whether in size or every other respect, the academy greatly surpassed what it had once been. Previously, Canglan Academy could hardly have been called an academy at all. Only with its current scale did it finally resemble a proper institution. Canglan Hall. The new Canglan Hall was several times larger than the old one. Although its interior was not extravagantly decorated, everything had a distinctive elegance. Inside, Ye Xuan walked up to the 9th Tower Master and cupped his fist. Senior, please sit, the 9th Tower Master smiled. There is no need. I came today to bring something to you. He took out a golden card and handed it to Ye Xuan. Ye Xuan accepted it and looked toward him. The 9th Tower Master smiled. Young friend, guess how much is inside? Ye Xuan shook his head. The 9th Tower Master laughed. 360 million gold coins. Ye Xuan's hand trembled. 360 million gold coins. The 9th Tower Master smiled. You think that is a great deal, do you not? Ye Xuan nodded seriously. The 9th Tower Master shook his head. You are wrong. Ye Xuan looked at him. Why? The 9th Tower Master smiled bitterly. Do you know how many gold coins are consumed every time a cultivator advances after reaching the Nether Passage realm? It is an astronomical figure. Cultivation is, in truth, the art of burning money. A Nether Passage realm expert who wishes to advance must prepare at least 100 or 200 million gold coins merely to purchase cultivation resources. That does not even include spiritual artifacts, martial techniques, or cultivation methods. Once someone reaches the 10,000 Dharma realm, the required wealth becomes even more terrifying. A small kingdom might not be able to support even one such expert. Ye Xuan was somewhat confused. The 9th Tower Master said in a deep voice, I received news from headquarters. I am afraid Cangmu Academy and the underworld have no intention of letting this matter end. Ye Xuan asked solemnly, even a sword immortal cannot force them to stop? The 9th Tower Master shook his head. She can force the powers in King Zhou to stop, but she cannot necessarily force those in the Central Divine Continent. He paused for several breaths before continuing. The Tower Master in charge of Drunken Immortal Tower's King Zhou operations sent word that the Underworld and Cangmu Academy may be preparing a major move. Your master must be careful. A sword immortal was powerful and extremely rare, but a sword immortal was not invincible. Ye Xuan nodded gravely. Thank you for the warning, Senior. Please also ask your tower to continue gathering information. If you receive any intelligence, tell me immediately. The 9th Tower Master nodded. Naturally. Drunken Immortal Tower has been watching this matter closely, and you had best warn your master to remain cautious. Those people will probably not come openly. They will act from the shadows. The underworld in particular is composed entirely of assassins. They certainly will not reveal themselves in the light. Ye Xuan nodded. I understand. The 9th Tower Master said, Take care, young friend. Headquarters also sent a message. If your master requires assistance, she need only say the word. Drunken Immortal Tower is willing to send experts above the 10,000 Dharma realm from the central divine continent. Winning favor. This time, they were not merely trying to win Ye Xuan over. They were trying to establish a connection with the Sword Immortal behind him. The people managing Drunken Immortal Tower were certainly not fools. Naturally, they wished to cultivate goodwill with both a Sword Immortal and a young man who might one day become one. They were even willing to pay a considerable price. Ye Xuan cupped his fist again. Thank you for your tower's kindness, but I cannot decide this matter. I must first ask my master. The 9th Tower Master smiled. I understand. Naturally, he knew Sword Immortals disliked owing favors. Without the approval of Ye Xuan's master, Drunken Immortal Tower would not dare take matters into its own hands and send reinforcements. A while later, the 9th Tower Master departed. Ye Xuan remained alone inside Canglan Hall. He turned and went to the bamboo forest behind the mountain. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, he entered the first floor of the World Prison Tower. He raised his head towards the ceiling and said in a deep voice, Senior, someone is planning to come and beat you. What do you think about that? Of course, Ye Xuan was nervous. The enemy knew there was a Sword Immortal here, and still dared come. That meant the people arriving were certainly beyond old Ji's level. The 4 of them had no possibility of defeating such people. A long time passed without any response. Ye Xuan smiled bitterly. Senior, some extremely powerful people may be coming to beat you this time. Are you not worried? At that moment, a white sheet of paper floated down from the 2nd floor. Ye Xuan released his sword's intent and used it to sense what had been drawn on the paper. The entire sheet was covered in claw marks, overlapping claw marks as Ye Xuan's face darkened. What is this supposed to mean? Smack. Without the slightest warning, Ye Xuan was sent flying. He slammed hard against a wall. He crawled back up. A claw mark had appeared on his face. Another sheet of paper drifted gently down from the 2nd floor. It was still covered in claw marks. The muscles in Ye Xuan's face twitched. Great one, I truly do not understand. Smack? Without warning, he was sent flying again. A while later, Ye Xuan crawled back up. The moment he stood, another sheet of paper floated before him, once again filled with claw marks. Ye Xuan shouted angrily, Damn it! Who could possibly understand this? Can you not write a few words? It is all claw marks. Who the hell can understand that? You smack! Ye Xuan was sent flying again. Great one. Stop playing around. King Zhou, Great Cloud Territory. Before Horan Hall at Cangmu Academy, 2 old men stood in silence. One wore white robes, the other wore black. Their appearances were extremely similar. At this moment, both were looking up at the emerald green sword embedded above Horan Hall. Behind them stood Mu Qingxuan and the others. Not a sword mortal. The people of Cangmu Academy were now filled with excitement. The reason they had been so cautious was because they believed the owner of that sword was a sword immortal. A sword immortal. Of course, they had been wary, no afraid. But what if she was not a sword immortal? Then what was there to fear? Why should they remain cautious? The fighting spirit of everyone in Cangmu Academy surged. At that moment, the white-robed old man suddenly turned around. Have the people from the underworld arrived? Mu Qingxuan was about to answer, when both the white-robed and black-robed old men suddenly raised their heads toward the horizon. An old man was flying toward them while standing upon a bamboo staff. He wore a purple-gold robe embroidered with strange ghostly figures. Merely looking at them inspired unease. Before long, the old man descended in front of Mu Qingxuan's group. He examined the 2 elders standing below Horan Hall and smiled. So, it is the 2 honored elders of Cangmu Academy. The white-robed old man cupped his fist. And you are? The newcomer shook his head and laughed. Surely the 2 of you understand the rules of the underworld. Only the dead are allowed to know our names. An assassin of the underworld. The underworld had an unspoken rule. Only those destined to die could learn the names of its assassins. The white-robed old man looked at the man holding the bamboo staff. Are we leaving now? The man smiled. Wait, one more person must arrive. Who? The white-robed old man asked. The man on the bamboo staff raised his head toward the horizon and smiled. A sword cultivator. A sword cultivator. The white-robed old man narrowed his eyes. Clearly, the person they were waiting for would not be an ordinary sword cultivator. At this moment, the black-robed old man suddenly asked, "If we kill that woman, how will the spoils be divided?" The man standing on the bamboo staff smiled. "The underworld only wants her corpse. The origin golden core will belong to Cangmu Academy. If she possesses any other treasures, our two sides will divide them equally. What do you think?" The white-robed old man fell silent. Her corpse, the body of a sword cultivator at the sword emperor level, was priceless. For other sword cultivators in particular, such a body held immense research value. The origin golden core inside her body was equally precious. Although it could not compare with the origin golden core of a sword immortal, it was still exceedingly rare. After a while, the white-robed old man nodded. "Agreed." The old man on the bamboo staff smiled. "Then there is nothing more to discuss. Once that sword cultivator arrives, we will go to King Zhou. As for the guardians along the way," the white-robed old man said calmly, "everything has already been arranged. Cangmu Academy still possesses enough influence for that." The corners of the old man's mouth curved upward. "Excellent." King Zhou, behind Canglan Academy, Ye Xuan sat cross-legged on the ground. Countless strands of sword intent and sword light were gathering around him, sword eyes. For the past several days, he had cultivated the sword eyes without rest. For him, mastering them was now the most urgent matter. Unfortunately, it was incredibly difficult. To gather sword intent and sword light within his eyes, he first had to compress them to an even greater extreme. More importantly, he had to maintain complete control over both. That was the hardest part. It was also why every previous attempt had failed. Fortunately, his body was strong enough to endure the destruction caused by the sword intent and sword light. Perhaps only a sword cultivator with a physique as powerful as his could attempt to cultivate the sword eyes. Elsewhere, before a cliff, Bai Ze repeatedly slammed himself into the stone wall. The cliff at the foot of the mountain had already been battered out of shape by his body. No one knew how long he continued before finally stopping. He lay on the ground, his body convulsing continuously. The muscles across his frame bulged, while veins twisted beneath his skin like small serpents. The sight was rather frightening. After resting for a while, Bai Ze took out a white jade bottle. It contained body-tempering pills. Each pill was worth roughly 300,000 gold coins. Ye Xuan had purchased the bottle for him. There were 20 pills in total. Bai Ze looked at the bottle in his hand, his expression becoming complicated. Although Bandit Yi occasionally went mad after drinking, he always took care of Bai Ze, Yunqi, and Ji Anzhi. The three of them needed only to cultivate. Ye Xuan handled everything else for them. That was also why they were so desperate to become stronger. They did not want Ye Xuan to carry every burden alone. Whatever happened, they wanted to face it together. But to stand beside him, they first had to become stronger. Much stronger. Otherwise, they would not merely fail to fight at his side. They would become burdens. Bai Ze drew a deep breath and swallowed one body-tempering pill. About 15 minutes later, he stood and once again charged toward the cliff. Boom! The entire stone wall shook. This continued for an unknown length of time. Boom! On one collision, the cliff suddenly collapsed with a thunderous roar. Bai Ze's body was blasted backward. Boom! He struck the ground and formed a deep, enormous pit. Before long, Bai Ze reached the bamboo forest. He was about to enter and look for Ye Xuan when he suddenly stopped. A terrifying wave of sword intent and sword light surrounded Ye Xuan. Most frightening of all were his eyes. Two currents of sword intent and sword light intertwined within them like twin bolts of lightning. The Lianshu sword hovered beside him, trembling continuously. The power radiating from it twisted and shredded the surrounding air. Seeing this, Bai Ze hesitated for a long time before muttering to himself, "Bandit Yi is a decent person. Better to go beat up stupid Mo instead." After saying that, he turned and left, without the slightest hesitation. Before long, Bai Ze arrived beneath a cliff. He raised his head. A figure as agile as an ape was constantly leaping back and forth across the rock face. It was Mo Yunqi. The cliff was nearly vertical, yet Mo Yunqi moved across it as though walking on level ground. His speed was astonishing, like a gust of wind. Bai Ze suddenly shouted, "Stupid Mo, come down and fight me!" On the cliff, Mo Yunqi paused. A moment later, his figure flashed, and he appeared before Bai Ze. Mo Yunqi looked him over and was about to speak when Bai Ze charged forward and punched. Boom! Caught completely off guard, Mo Yunqi was sent flying. But while in the air, his body flashed several times, forcibly dispersing the power of Bai Ze's punch. He had used speed to neutralize force. After landing, Mo Yunqi glared at Bai Ze and shouted, "Big fellow, is your skin itching again?" Before he could finish, Bai Ze charged again. Mo Yunqi's expression changed. "Damn it, I will beat you to death." His body trembled and transformed into a series of afterimages that shot toward Bai Ze. Before long, the two were fighting fiercely. Bai Ze completely overwhelmed Mo Yunqi in strength, but Mo Yunqi completely overwhelmed Bai Ze in speed. Mo Yunqi was clever. He never confronted Bai Ze's power directly and fought only through constant movement and sudden attacks. For a while, neither could gain the upper hand. Elsewhere, in the bamboo forest, Ye Xuan remained seated cross-legged on the ground. His eyes were tightly closed and his body trembled continuously. After an unknown amount of time, his eyes suddenly opened. Two streaks of sword light shot from them like lightning. Pff! In an instant, every bamboo tree within several dozen zhang before Ye Xuan shattered and turned to powder. Ye Xuan collapsed to the ground. As his eyes closed again, two endless currents of sword intent and sword light slowly intertwined and condensed within them. Sword eyes, after countless failures, he had finally mastered them. The sword eyes could be called both a cultivation method and a sword technique. As for one sword fixes the soul, the technique specifically targeting souls, Ye Xuan had no intention of cultivating it for the moment. Greed for too much would lead to failure. First, he would cultivate the sword eyes to their limit. Mastery mattered more than quantity. After resting for an unknown length of time, Ye Xuan slowly sat up. Just as he was about to continue cultivating, a figure suddenly appeared before him. It was the Ninth Tower Master. The Ninth Tower Master looked extremely anxious. Young friend, Drunken Immortal Tower's King Zhou headquarters has sent word. Experts from Cangmu Academy and the underworld have already entered King Zhou. They are most likely from the central divine continent. Ye Xuan stood. They have already arrived? The Ninth Tower Master said in a deep voice. They are undoubtedly targeting your master this time. Young friend, does your master require assistance? Assistance? Xuan smiled bitterly. Until now, the mysterious woman had not answered a single word he had said. He did not even know whether she wanted help. At that moment, an invisible pressure suddenly appeared and enveloped the entirety of Canglan Mountain. When blood began flowing from Ye Xuan's 7 orifices, the Ninth Tower Master cried out in shock. Young Yuri Han hurriedly sat cross-legged and gently waved his hand. I am fine, the Ninth Tower Master asked hesitantly. Young friend, this is? Ye Xuan could only smile bitterly. I encountered a small problem while cultivating. It is nothing serious. Suspicion appeared on the Ninth Tower Master's face. Cultivating? What kind of cultivation made someone bleed from all 7 orifices? That was far too frightening. Ye Xuan sank his awareness into his body. Senior, was that you? No answer came, leaving him somewhat embarrassed. In the sky, the white-robed old man from Cangmu Academy looked toward the Ninth Tower Master. A member of Drunken Immortal Tower? The Ninth Tower Master asked. And you are? The old man replied indifferently. Does Drunken Immortal Tower also intend to interfere in this matter? Naturally. Cangmu Academy would not underestimate a powerful force from the central divine continent like Drunken Immortal Tower. If the tower truly intended to interfere, Cangmu Academy would still have to exercise caution. The old man's words placed the Ninth Tower Master in a difficult position. Drunken Immortal Tower was willing to pay a great price to win over Ye Xuan and the Sword Immortal behind him. Naturally, it wished to stand on their side, but Ye Xuan's master first had to ask for their assistance. Without that, Drunken Immortal Tower did not dare act on its own. The stakes were too great. Seeing the Ninth Tower Master glance toward him, Ye Xuan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Senior, please withdraw for now. Drunken Immortal Tower had already done more than enough. The Ninth Tower Master hesitated and was about to speak when Ye Xuan continued. If we truly require anything, we will not be polite with you. For now, please step aside. My master and I will handle this matter. The Ninth Tower Master sighed. Young friend, if your master needs anything, she need only speak one sentence. Drunken Immortal Tower will use all its strength to assist her. After saying this, he turned and vanished. Mo Yunqi, Bai Ze, and Ji Anzhi walked to Ye Xuan's side. When they saw the 4 people in the sky, the expressions of the 3 became extremely grave. Those 4 had completely exceeded the limits of their understanding. The white-robed old man examined the 4 young people and said softly, "These 4 are not bad." The black-robed old man beside him nodded. Indeed. The old man standing upon the bamboo staff smiled and looked toward Bai Ze. I did not expect to find someone with a half-demon body here. One who has even begun awakening the strength of his bloodline. Although he has only just reached the Nether Passage realm, even a Divine Union realm expert may be unable to injure him. The white-robed old man nodded. Correct, his physical strength meets the standard, and with the power of his bloodline added, he may be considered exceptional. His gaze shifted toward Mo Yunqi. Mo Yunqi immediately straightened his back. Nothing impressive. Those words nearly made Yunqi explode in anger. The white-robed old man was about to look away when his gaze suddenly focused on Yunqi again. This time, surprise entered his voice. A special constitution? Oh, is this the light spirit physique? The light spirit physique? The other three people in the air looked toward Yunqi in surprise. There were certain people in this world who were born different. Sometimes that difference appeared in their talent. Sometimes it appeared in their physique. Certain special physiques allowed cultivators to accomplish twice as much with half the effort. Yunqi's light spirit physique was one such example. If he cultivated suitable movement techniques, calling his future speed heaven-defying would not be an exaggeration. The old man standing on the bamboo staff suddenly smiled. Would you be willing to join the underworld? If you agree, I will spare your life today. Clearly, he believed Yunqi was well suited to becoming an assassin, and he was not wrong. If Yunqi learned the underworld's mysterious movement and concealment techniques, he would become terrifying. The bamboo staff elders' open attempt to recruit Yunqi surprised the white-robed and black-robed elders, but they quickly regained their composure. They exchanged a glance, then looked toward Bai Ze. The white-robed old man said, "Would you be willing to join Cangmu Academy? If you agree, I will spare your life today." The white-robed old man shook his head. "Since you do not know how to treasure this opportunity, then turn to dust." The man on the bamboo staff agreed. There is no need to force the matter. The world has no shortage of geniuses. At that moment, the black-robed old man and the other three all turned toward Ji Anzhi. She looked back without emotion, leisurely taking out a steamed bun and eating it. After a while, the white-robed old man nodded. Nothing especially unusual, yet she has comprehended saber intent. The expressions of all four became solemn. She possessed no special talent, yet she had comprehended saber intent. It appeared ordinary. In truth, it was anything but ordinary. Ji Anzhi had relied upon the most common talent to reach her current level. That proved both her temperament and effort were among the very best. People like her were often the most frightening. The white-robed old man examined her for a long time. "I assume you will not leave Canglan Academy either." "Very well. There is no need to waste words." Then all four pairs of eyes turned toward Ye Xuan. He was now the most prominent young genius in Jiang Kingdom, his reputation even surpassing in Langshu's. They examined him for a long while without speaking. Outwardly, Ye Xuan remained calm. Inside, his heart was pounding like a drum. The mysterious woman still had not said a single word. He smiled bitterly and called inwardly, "Senior, these people came looking for you. You cannot simply ignore them." Still no answer. This time, however, a sheet of paper flew down from the second floor of the tower. The moment Ye Xuan sensed what was written on it, he was shocked. He hurriedly withdrew his awareness and left the world prison tower. "Do not provoke her. Absolutely do not provoke her." Ye Xuan looked up at the four elders. The white-robed old man said calmly, "Peak Skysoar realm, your foundation is indeed rarely seen. Not only have you comprehended sword intent, but also battle intent. You cultivate both the sword and martial arts, and your body is remarkably powerful. Rare, truly rare. With your present strength, you could enter at least the top 10 of the martial ranking. If you reach the Nether Passage realm, you could enter the top 5. The black-robed old man nodded. "You are indeed rare, not only in the regions surrounding Jiang Kingdom, but even throughout Qingzhou. In the future, your strength may surpass even Tuoba Fu of Ning Kingdom." He then looked toward the elder standing on the bamboo staff. "What does your excellency think?" The response was a cold smile. The more monstrous his talent, the more necessary it is that he die. Everyone fell silent. The white-robed and black-robed old men quietly looked at Ye Xuan. He had to die. They would never allow someone like Ye Xuan the opportunity to mature. To them, if a person could not become a friend and might instead become an enemy, then the only correct choice was to pull the weed out by the roots and leave no future danger. At that moment, the man carrying the great sword asked Ye Xuan, "What kind of sword intent do you possess?" Ye Xuan shook his head. In truth, he did not know either. He had already decided that the next time the mysterious woman appeared, he would demand an answer. The problem was that he had no idea when she would appear. He could not defeat these four people. Otherwise, he would have drawn his sword and attacked them long ago. The white-robed old man glanced around before looking back at Ye Xuan. "Your master still has not appeared?" Yish did not answer. Inside his heart, he whispered desperately, "Sword immortal sister, stop sleeping and wake up. A fight is about to begin." Still no response. Ye Xuan's face darkened like the bottom of a pot. Was this not the definition of deceiving one's own disciple? The white-robed old man suddenly said, "It seems we must place some pressure on her." As soon as he finished speaking, he lowered his palm toward Ye Xuan's group. Boom! A vast pressure descended like dozens of enormous mountains. Ye Xuan and the other three nearly dropped to their knees. In the end, they barely managed to remain standing, but blood immediately flowed from the corners of their mouths. They could not breathe. It felt as though their bodies were about to explode. Ye Xuan suddenly roared, and powerful battle intent surged from his body, but the old man's pressure immediately forced it back inside him. Ye Xuan stomped his right foot down. His battle intent erupted again. This time accompanied by sword intent, the two forms of intent merged together and stubbornly resisted the white-robed old man's pressure. The old man narrowed his eyes. Two forms of intent merged into one. I did not expect you to be capable of this. He pressed his palm downward once more. Crack! In an instant, the ground beneath Yashu's group split apart, but all four continued resisting with everything they possessed. They refused to kneel, seeing that the old man intended to act again. Ye Xuan raised his head and roared, "I will cut you down!" He slammed his right foot against the ground, and his entire body shot into the sky. Even though he knew he could not win, he would still fight. Even if he died, he would unleash this sword. The old man's lips curved into a mocking smile. He extended his right hand and pressed downward once more. Boom!